Welcome back, and now with the news in detail. Pakistan has summoned a senior Indian diplomat to register protest over the ceasefire violations along the line of control. In a statement, the Foreign Office said unprovoked fighting by the Indian troops seriously wounded 5 civilians in the Nikyal sector. A Foreign Office spokesperson said New Delhi is continuously targeting civilian population across the line of control. Aisha Faruqi said Indian forces use artillery fire, heavy caliber mortars and automatic weapons. She said India has so far committed 1,595 ceasefire violations and martyred 14 civilians this year. The Foreign Office condemned the aggression and said such senseless acts are in clear violation of the 2003 ceasefire understanding. Meanwhile, Pakistan military's media wing said the army responded effectively to Indian aggression. Prime Minister Imran Khan has lauded the support extended by the World Health Organization to Pakistan in the fight against COVID-19. In a video conference with WHO's Chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, Khan highlighted Pakistan's strategy for deploying data-driven interventions. He called upon the global health body to play its role in engaging member states to remove virus-related travel restrictions from Pakistan. Ghebreyesus noted progress made by Pakistan in containing the spread of the virus and appreciated the steps taken by the government. Pakistan has reported 4,762 fatalities among over 231,000 cases of infections so far. The death toll from the new coronavirus worldwide has exceeded 534,000 as the number of infections surpasses 11.4 million. With more than 129,000 victims, the United States is the worst hit country, followed by Brazil with over 64,000 deaths so far. Elsewhere, India has overtaken Russia as the country with the third most coronavirus cases. The country has recorded nearly 700,000 cases despite strict lockdowns imposed from March to May. This report has the details.
The coronavirus pandemic is getting worse globally with each passing day as the second wave of infections forces new lockdowns. Hospitals in some parts of the US are in danger of being overwhelmed as the COVID-19 cases continue to surge in the country. Arkansas governor says states should not delay reimposing restrictive measures if cases surge again.
But governors have to be able to adjust to what is happening with the virus. We've done that in Arkansas. We were flat for a long time. We had a small increase. We went back down, and now you see it going back up. And we're responding to that. That's what governors do. That's what we have to do.
After 4 months of closure, the Louvre Museum in the heart of Paris is set to reopen today. Saudi Arabia has announced new health protocols for this year's Hajj, which will only be open to domestic pilgrims. Touching the Kaaba will be banned, and a social distancing space of 1.5 meters enforced during mass prayers and while circling the Kaaba. Touching the Kaaba will be banned, and a social distancing space of 1.5 meters enforced during mass prayers and while circling the Kaaba. Meanwhile, the border between Australia's states of Victoria and New South Wales will be closed at midnight for the first time in a century.
Staying inside your flat, inside your unit, is the safest and best thing to do. It's not pleasant. I know it's challenging. It's very, very challenging. But it is far preferable to seeing vast numbers of people with underlying health conditions infected with this virus, spreading it between each other.
In Asia, mainland China has reported 4 new cases of the coronavirus in the past day. After an aggressive second wave, South Korea's daily new virus cases have fallen slightly, but a steady rise in both locally transmitted infections and imported cases continues to put a strain on the country's virus fight.
Kabul is hosting a virtual international conference on the Afghan peace process today. Representatives from 19 countries as well as international organizations are participating in the event. Officials from the US, Russia, China, Pakistan, Iran, Qatar and other countries in the region are expected to attend the meeting. Officials said the meeting will be hosted by Afghanistan's acting Foreign Affairs Minister Mohammad Hanif Atmar. Yesterday, presidential spokesman said Kabul is committed to start the inter-Afghan negotiations as soon as possible to ensure peace and stability. The Afghan government says it is reluctant to release 597 out of a total of 5,000 Taliban prisoners as part of the Doha peace deal. A key confidence-building measure, the prisoners' release remains a bottleneck to kickstart the intra-Afghan negotiations. Head of the prisoners' release affairs, Ahmed Rashid Totakhel, says these individuals are accused of dreadful crimes and moral issues. Totakhel said they included individuals charged with murder, rape and other crimes of serious nature. Rejecting Kabul's stance, the Taliban say the government is violating the Doha Pact by punishing individuals arrested on charges of just being a Taliban member. So far, 4,015 Taliban prisoners have been released. China's ambassador to London, Liu Xiaoming, has accused Britain of gross interference in Hong Kong. In a news briefing, the envoy has warned that if London wants to make Beijing a hostile country, it will have to bear the consequences. Xiaoming said London has been making irresponsible remarks since Beijing introduced its new security legislation. This comes after the UK said that China's security law on Hong Kong was a clear and serious violation of 1984 Joint Declaration. Earlier, Prime Minister Boris Johnson said he would offer around 3 million residents of the former colony a path to British citizenship. Responding, the Chinese ambassador said Beijing hopes that they will reconsider their position. He said no one should underestimate the firm determination of China to safeguard its sovereignty, security and development interests. Beijing has accused Washington of deliberately sending its naval ships to the South China Sea to flex its muscles. For the first time in 6 years, 2 U.S. Navy aircraft carriers are in the sea, the latest show of military might from Washington. The U.S. carriers arrived in the region today as China wrapped up its own set of naval exercises in the area. The U.S. Navy said the Nimitz and Ronald Reagan strike groups conducted several exercises to strengthen warfighting readiness. In a press briefing, China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijian accused the U.S. of trying to drive a wedge between the regional countries. Beijing claims 90% of the energy-rich waters, but Brunei, Malaysia, the Philippines, Taiwan and Vietnam also lay partial claims. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has told the German Chancellor that he is ready for the UN-led negotiations with Israel. In a phone call with Angela Merkel, President Abbas discussed the latest regional developments, particularly Israeli plans to annex the occupied West Bank. Abbas congratulated Merkel on Germany's assumption of the presidency of the European Union and the UN Security Council. He thanked Merkel for supporting Palestine's stance with regard to the annexation of occupied territories. Yesterday, the Palestine Liberation Organization said it is seeking to build an international coalition to block the annexation plan. The body's Secretary General Saeb Erekat said the coalition will aim to hold Israel accountable if it goes ahead with the occupation. Israel says its warplanes have targeted multiple locations in the Gaza Strip. The Israeli Defense Ministry says it struck Hamas infrastructure and military posts in retaliation to rocket fire. No casualties have been reported so far, while no Palestinian faction has claimed responsibility for firing the rockets towards Israel. Meanwhile, Israel has launched a new spy satellite that it said would provide high-quality surveillance for its military intelligence. Israel Defense Minister Benny Gantz said they will continue to strengthen and maintain the country's capabilities on every front. Tensions are on the rise again between Israel and Hamas over Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's plans to annex the occupied West Bank. Israel's defense ministry says it has launched a new reconnaissance satellite, its latest asset to be deployed against arch-enemy Iran. In a statement, the Ministry of Defense said the satellite will undergo a series of tests. It said the successful launch of the satellite overnight is yet another extraordinary achievement for Israel's defense sector. The statement did not give further details on the satellite's mission, but Israeli public radio said it would be used to monitor Iran's nuclear activities. However, Iran has denied the claims that its nuclear program has any military dimension. Iran says it has built underground missile cities along the Gulf coastline, warning of a nightmare for Tehran's enemies. In an interview, the Revolutionary Guard's Navy chief said the cities were established along the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. Admiral Ali Raza Tangsiri said Iran's enemies have misleading information about its missile infrastructure. He said the region will continue to be deprived of peace as long as the US forces are present in it. Tangsiri said the Iranian forces are present wherever the US has its military presence in the region. Turkey says it has killed 2 militants of the Kurdistan Workers' Party in northern Syria. The Defense Ministry says the fighters were killed during Operation Peace Spring. It said the militants were killed near Turkey's southern border. The ministry said it will not stop the operations against militants in the region. Since 2016, Turkey has launched a trio of operations across its border into northern Syria. Ankara holds a fighter group responsible for the deaths of some 40,000 people in a 30-year terror campaign. In the Dominican Republic, opposition candidate Luis Abinader has claimed a victory in the presidential race after voters braved the coronavirus outbreak to cast their ballots. Preliminary results show Abinader won nearly 54% of the vote, which, if sustained, will be enough to avoid a runoff election. Ruling party candidate Gonzalo Castillo was in second place at 37% of the vote. Abinader's main rivals conceded defeat shortly after, although no official result has been announced. The ruling Conservatives have won the most seats in the Croatia's parliamentary elections. With more than 91% of the vote counted, the Croatian Democratic Union has grabbed 67 seats in 151-seat parliament. An alliance led by the Liberal Social Democratic Party, the main opposition party, came in second with 41 seats. The Democratic Union is expected to form a majority government in coalition with smaller right-wing parties that have also won some seats. The acting Prime Minister and winning party's leader, Andrej Plenković, praised the election result, calling it a great victory. Social Democratic Party head Davor Bernardic has conceded defeat, saying he will resign from the leadership. In Japan, the number of people killed in southwestern island of Kyushu's torrential rains and floods has risen to 44. State media said 23 more people died, while 10 others are still missing as the rescue operations are underway in the region. Evacuation orders were issued for more than 500,000 island residents, as well as evacuation advisories for tens of thousands more. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said the rain was forecast to head east by Wednesday and ordered round-the-clock search and rescue operations. Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshide Suga said 40,000 members of the Self-Defense Force are involved in rescue missions. He added that evacuation centers were also working on preventing the spread of the coronavirus. Moreover, in India, lightning strikes have killed 147 people in the northern state of Bihar over the last 10 days. Officials have warned of more extreme weather conditions to come, driven by climate change. They said this year's toll in Bihar has already surpassed the total number of deaths recorded annually for the state over the past few years. Last year, 170 people were killed in lightning strikes during the monsoon period. Bihar's disaster management minister said rising temperatures due to climate change are to blame for the increasing lightning strikes. The official said 25 people died on Saturday. The Indian Met Department has warned of more lightning in the next 48 hours. More stories to follow, but right. In Nigeria, 21 people are feared dead after an overloaded boat capsized in East Central Benue River. Police said 2 people have been rescued while the search for possible survivors is underway. It said the vessel with 23 on board sank midstream while sailing towards Makurdi city. Officials say the victims were identified as members of a local church who were going to attend a conference. The incident occurred 2 days after 21 people, including the captain of the ferry, sank in Lagos. 6 people were confirmed dead and 14 others were rescued, while 1 passenger is still missing. Italy has given permission for 180 migrants rescued from the Mediterranean to disembark from a charity-run ship. The decision comes after a standoff that lasted more than a week. The Ocean Viking, operated by rescue group SOS Mediterranee, has declared a state of emergency, citing fears of the safety of both migrants and crew. The migrants are set to be transferred to a government vessel in Sicily today and will quarantine for 14 days. Medics have already tested those on the Ocean Viking for COVID-19. The migrants are from a range of countries, including Pakistan, Eritrea, and Nigeria. They had fled the coast of Libya when they were rescued in 4 separate groups between June the 25th and 30th. The UK has announced a nearly $2 billion support package for cultural and arts institutions to compensate for the impact of COVID-19. London says the money will provide a lifeline to vital cultural and heritage organizations hit hard by the pandemic. The press release said the fund will help cultural organizations stay afloat while their doors are closed. It said thousands of organizations, including museums, galleries, independent cinemas and theatres, will have access to emergency loans and grants. The support package also includes funding for the UK-based cultural organizations to restart construction work paused amid the global health crisis. In Brazil, increased deforestation and fires are main threats to the Amazon rainforest. The experts fear that the double danger can diminish trees on thousands of acres. Details in this report.
In June, Brazil's Space Research Agency detected over 2,200 fires in the Amazon, which is higher than the same month last year. Another alarming indicator is rising deforestation. Fires are usually set to clear the land after trees have been cut down. Official data shows that deforestation is up 34% in the first 5 months of 2020. Environmentalists predict that at the current rate of deforestation, Amazon will be deprived of trees on the thousands of acres. Environmentalists predict that at the current pace of deforestation, Amazon will be deprived of trees on thousands of acres. Earlier this month, Amazon Environmental Research Institute analyzed that the areas are at risk of being set ablaze.
The investigations have shown that the dry season at the regions of the boundary between the Amazon and the Cerrado, which is part of Brazil's agriculture production area, the dry season has increased by 6 to 7 days each decade, and this increase in length of the dry season could threaten the second agricultural harvest.
The Brazilian government has deployed the armed forces to protect the Amazon in May. Despite the initiative, deforestation has risen 12% in May from a year earlier and increased in June.
There must be no lenience for illegal activities in the Amazon. More punishment is needed for illegal mining, land grabbing and public land invasion. That needs to happen immediately. If not, we are going to have a much worse situation in the coming days. If not, we are going to have a much worse situation in the coming months.
The communities in the Amazon have been bracing for the smoke that sweeps over the region during this fire season. Environmentalists say weaker environmental enforcement is to blame for rising destruction.
As the new coronavirus threatens health and upends daily life throughout the world, the entertainment industry is also feeling the heat of the crisis. To cope with the situation, organizers of the Paris Fashion Week have come up with a digital solution. Instead of staging sometimes extravagant shows, the Fashion Week clicks off online to avoid an existential crisis by the coronavirus. More in this report.
Paris is usually abuzz during its prestigious haute couture presentations in July, with hotels normally heaving with fashionistas and landmarks turned into catwalk venues. But in a makeover triggered by the coronavirus crisis, top designers will instead be experimenting next week with online showcases to try and keep clients hooked. Brands from Christian Dior to Chanel are pressing ahead with collections and shows through an organized schedule of videos running from July 6th to 8th.
I think there is a bit less stress in terms of organization because we didn't send out the invitations and we don't have to bring together an audience. I know that seating would be difficult to do these days, but aside from this, all rest is the same.
At the Haute Couture Week, a select club of designers display one-of-a-kind handmade outfits.
This
is also the big question mark. What will happen with the clients? How will they catch on? I don't know when the borders will reopen. For the American clients at the moment, it seems to me a bit difficult. I don't know.
Physical catwalk displays are likely to be back on the agenda in Paris by September, and brands were already booking venues.
The Fashion Week keep Paris' economy running. Whether it's luxury hotels or it's also a great window that shows Paris' image to the world. So there are these things that must not be replaced and just cannot be replaced as such.
It is said that the fashion weeks keep Paris' economy running. The shows generate over €1 billion for the local economy each year.
Wall Street's major indices have climbed after data showed unexpected growth in the U.S. services sector last month. Optimism over China's economic revival also helped investors look past a surge in new COVID-19 cases at home. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is trading higher by about 1.5%. The S&P 500 has also gained about 1.5%. The Nasdaq Composite is leading the gains, trading higher by about 2%. Meanwhile, oil prices rose, supported by tighter supplies and a string of data expected to show economic recovery across the globe. European markets have bounced as investors focus on the prospect of economic recovery and progress on potential coronavirus drugs. Stocks in Europe look set to follow the trend set in Asia overnight as some mainland Chinese stocks surged more than 4%. The pan-European stock 600 has so far added over 1.5% in early trade, with banks jumping over 4% to lead gains. Germany's DAX is up by 1.5%. London's FTSE has gained nearly 2%, while France's CAC 42 has climbed 1.5%. And now the weather situation from around the globe. And that's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus News.